Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote. This is a weekly show where we introduce you to some of the best creators in the world, and we find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote channel, and our guest on this episode is someone I am very excited to have here in our virtual studio, as one might call it. He is the author of so many different books across so many different fandoms, and he's got a new book coming out very, very soon known as Batman Resurrection, which is a sequel of sorts to the 1989 classic, simply known as Batman, from director Tim Burton. Please welcome New York Times bestselling writer himself. He is here, the man, the myth, the legend. John Jackson Miller is in the building. Hello, good sir. How are you?
I'm just fine, just fine.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, if you have any questions for John Jackson Miller as we go throughout the course of this episode, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. And do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. And if you're watching us live or what is known as a replay, we thank you so much for being with us. With that out of the way, John, what would you say were some of your favorite books or writers growing up?
Well, I was a huge comics fan to start with. I was started collecting age 6, and my mother was a grade school librarian, so she encouraged me to keep all my comics. She didn't throw them all away. She had me put them all in order. So I certainly had comics that I was a fan of. Spider-Man, Star Wars, X-Men. Later on Batman. And then book wise, I think I was really a hard science fiction fan. So Arthur C. Clarke, Hal Clement, writers like that, and all of this sort of finds an expression in the variety of things that I've done since then. So I've done Star Wars novels, which is more of a space fantasy. I've done Star Trek novels, which is more pure science fiction. And then of course, we have my first superhero novel. Although I have written for comics and superhero comics before. I wrote Iron Man for a year back 20 years ago at this point. But really, I've spent most of my time since then in outer space, and coming back to Earth in 1989 for this project was really cool.
Nothing wrong with a galaxy far, far away, or, going where no man has gone before, and then going right back to the dark underbelly, simply known as Gotham City. So all points in between. By the way, the Dutch Star Wars guys in the chat, he says, OMG, Mr. Miller, I'm a big fan of A New Dawn.
Oh, yeah. That is the Star Wars novel that I wrote. Came out 10 years ago this September. It was the prequel novel for Star Wars Rebels. Also happened to be the first novel in the Lucasfilm Story Group era of storytelling. So, basically, I've been around for the firsts of several things. And again, this is the first novel tying into the Tim Burton movies themselves. And so, it's one of those things where if I didn't get the offer to do the book, I probably would be, envious beyond measure of whoever got it. So I'm just it might have been my supervillain origin story if you you're being overcome with envy for this thing. So yeah, it is cool that got to do that.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Now, what made you decide to become a writer? What started for you?
Well, I was good at it, and I wasn't good at baseball or anything else. So it just kind of came to me. In part, it was because it was something that I was doing myself for fun, completely unrelated to school. I was drawing my own comics and had my own little comics publishing company as a kid, and then later on was actually publishing them with my dad's photocopier, and I was typing up my novels on an old typewriter before I got my computer, I later on would discover fandom, and I would discover through a weekly magazine called Comics Buyer's Guide. It was actually a newspaper at that point. I realized I was not alone in wanting to do my own thing. There were other people out there that were doing fanzines and mini comics and that sort of thing. The equivalent of today's blogs and web comics. And so I was actually able to, as I got through high school and into college, exchange, what I was drawing or writing with other people out there. And of course, the irony of all this is, well, first of all, having done all of that publishing, self-publishing work, that set me up for a career in journalism, because I was the editor of my high school newspaper, the campus newspaper at the University of Tennessee, and when I got to a career destination that I was actually interested in, I was. I edited my first job out of grad school. I edited a line of magazines about lumber, and that wasn't very exciting. But less than a year after that, I discovered that magazine, Comics Buyer's Guide, Don and Maggie Thompson, the editors of that, they were looking for somebody to edit the sister publication, the trade magazine called Comics Retailer. And so really it was 30 years ago that I quit the lumber job and moved up to Wisconsin, which is where I've been ever since, doing novels and comics and everything else. Do go back to Memphis every so often. I just saw in the chat that Carlin Stewart, a friend of mine from high school, just showed up. Carlin went to my high school a couple of years before I did, and I later on, he was working with a convention in town, Mid-South-Con, and brought me in, which is kind of cool.
Oh, there you go. Good to see you there, Carlin, here in the chat. Don't forget, if you have any questions, let us know in the comments down below. No question about that. What would you say are some of the biggest rewards for you about being a writer?
Well, it all comes when the book is done, really. The process is not always one that I enjoy. Particularly the outlining part of the process is the hardest part on me, because I'm writing for other people's characters. Most of my work has been for other licensed characters. Everything I've got to do has to go through levels of approval. So the outline of the story has to be approved. The story itself has to be approved. And I write some fairly complicated mysteries, and so it's not unusual for one of my outlines to go 15,000 words, 20,000 words, which is a good chunk of the way towards the end of a book. I mean, that's quite a ways. But you've got to have that much information so that the licensor can understand that you understand your story and that you have all the logical things plugged in. It's really having written, being able to talk about the book, the work in places like this, being able to talk about it at bookstores and conventions, and talk to fans who've actually read the book, and hearing from them that that what I did had some value to them. That is the biggest thing I take away from it. And of course it is not a bad place to go to work every day. In the galaxy far, far away, or on the final frontier, or Gotham City. I mean, it certainly beats anything else I ever did.
Absolutely. You've been to all points in between. So, which
not
is
all,
great.
but I'm getting there.
You're getting there. You're getting awfully close. Let's be perfectly honest here. You're getting awfully close. On the flip side of the coin, though, hashtag I believe in Harvey Dent. What are some of the challenges about being a writer for you?
Well, I mentioned the outlines are there. The thing is, you've got to show up every day. If you're going to finish a novel, you have this train that's running that is one that if you don't keep running along next to it, you can lose it. So one of the challenges that I've had increasingly as I've gotten more and more public appearances is I'll have to drop everything in the middle of something and go somewhere and then pick it back up again. And so that is hard to do. It was also fairly difficult when I was doing a lot of multitasking in different franchises at the same time. It's not that I was getting them confused. It's just I would be doing something where, all right, in 2018, I had a comic book for Star Wars come out, a comic book series for Battlestar Galactica's 40th anniversary coming out. I had a graphic novel for the Dumbo movie, another graphic novel for the Lion King live action book, and then I was also writing Star Trek Discovery: The Enterprise War, which is a novel. And so, all of these projects were at different stages at different times, and so I might be on that train trying to get that book written, and suddenly, I have to do edits on a project that I thought I was done with, or actually, what'll happen with comic books is, you'll be done writing, but then they will send you the art over the next few weeks and months, and as it gets done, and then I need to look at it again and get my mind back in that space, because what is nice is they do give you a chance to revise the dialogue in case what's on the page does not match up. There's a degree of multitasking there, and it's one of the benefits of living in Wisconsin that if I'm writing a book in the winter, there's not anywhere else to go.
Well, fair enough. And Carlin, I'm actually thinking the same thing. You're juggling your universes there, John.
That's exactly it.
According to Carlin here. Goodness gracious. Once again, we are here with the incredible John Jackson Miller on And I Quote. Do not forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. And if you're joining us live or on a replay, we thank you so much for being with us. Any other pieces of advice you would give to aspiring writers out there?
Well, I would say just write anything. As long as you're writing so that people can actually see what you're doing and give you feedback. I mentioned all the things that I'd done in high school and college, and I mentioned I was the editor of the campus newspaper, which was the University of Tennessee Daily Beacon at Knoxville. I assigned myself movie reviews the summer that Batman came out, and so that is one of my bylines right there, John Miller. Batman remains true to legend. These were all examples of, I was writing for an audience every day that was bound to respond if they didn't understand what I was writing, or if they didn't appreciate what I was writing. I had a deadline every day that I had to deal with. And so anything that you do where it actually gets you into the disciplines of communication and then also, hitting your marks. I think that is helpful.
There you go. Wise words to live by a master Jedi, a Starfleet captain, and I don't know, Commissioner Miller, maybe Batman Miller. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what character you would be playing in Gotham City.
I think I identified most with Alexander Knox, who was the reporter.
Yeah, there you go. It makes sense.
There was sort of the wisecracking reporter, because again, I was a journalism student as I was reviewing the movie. And one of the cool things about this novel is I was able to bring that character back because he does not appear in the second film. But I can retroactively do what I want here within limits.
No, it's fantastic, and the beauty part of it is we're going to give you a grant for that. So let's jump right into it, because honestly, I've been excited to hear about this for the entire time that we booked this. So, Batman Resurrection, what was the process like for you putting this together?
Well, I was in the middle of writing my most recent Star Wars novel called The Living Force, and my editor Tom Huller approached me and said, "I know you're in the middle of this other major production, but you saw Batman in the theater 12 times, didn't you?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, we have this opportunity. There have been novels about comics before, or superheroes before, and various tie-ins like that. But comics, superhero related, prose novels have never really been, on that blockbuster level that some of the other tie-ins have sold on. There have been hardcovers. There were hardcovers for John Sable. There were hardcovers for other comics characters. There have been several Batman hardcovers because they had No Man's Land and others. It's just they never have actually done what this book would do, which is it's not just a comics novel, it's a movie novel. So it's something that is tying in to a not just Batman in the movies, but a specific version of Batman, and that is the Batman that appears in the Tim Burton movies Batman and Batman Returns. And it was not something that I ever even thought that I could ask to do before this, because the idea of just taking a pocket of the license like that, a very small part of it, didn't seem feasible. It doesn't really become possible until in the late 2000s, early 2010s, we get the Batman 66 comics, where it's the Adam West series. They do some comic books that spin off of that, and they do some other things at the same time. And then later, I remember I asked the editor at DC of those books at the time. I said at San Diego, I said, hey, if you ever do Batman 89 comics, let me know. And he said, well, you're like the 40th person to ask that. And that's not surprising. And I didn't hear anything more about it. And it went away, the whole idea, until about for about 10 years, until about 2 years ago. And that is when Sam Hamm, one of the two screenwriters of Batman, teamed up with Joe Quinones, who has done some of my covers of my Star Wars comics. They teamed up to do Batman 89 comics miniseries, and that was successful enough that they did a second one that is ongoing right now. And so that happening, plus Bruce Wayne / Batman turning up in The Flash, plus I think Michael Keaton, having a moment more or less now with Beetlejuice, and also Tim Burton as well. All of these things contributed to this becoming an attractive license to do something with. And so that was the offer that I got. And I was like over the moon. And I immediately thought I wanted to do something that, dug into some of the questions that I had about the movie back in my review. Things that I would actually would like to know what happened next. And then also the other good reason to set this in between Batman and Batman Returns is that the comics guys are doing their work over a year after the end of Batman Returns. And my thinking was, let me stay out of their way so that I'm not overlapping what they're doing. I'm not repeating what they're doing. So such things as Harvey Dent turning into Two-Face, that happens in the comics. And so while we do have Billy D. Williams' version of Harvey Dent in my novel, as well as a lot of characters that are both in Batman and Batman Returns, or just in one or the other, I decided, I would not retell, a story that they've told.
Oh my goodness gracious! Mr. Wayne, we need to have a few more cases of champagne. Will that be all right? Oh, sure.
6.
Go ahead.
6 is good.
6. Yeah, 6 is good. I'm definitely gonna need 6 more of these guys. I'll tell you what. I agree, and I agree with everything you just said. And congratulations on the upcoming release of Batman Resurrection, more specifically. But I gotta say, one of the first movies I remember watching as a kid, I was like 5 or 6 when I saw this at the time. Anyway, this is on VHS. I saw Batman '89 on VHS, and the first time I watched it, I was like just in awe of it because I was only like 6 years old at the time. And I loved it so much that I went because I think I have 2 older brothers, so they introduced me to some of these properties growing up, just with all due respect. And I love the movie so much. I watched it endlessly. That thing was on looping in my house, like every single time I could spare time from school. I would be watching Batman '89 because I was smiling, I was laughing, and when he crashes through the window and rescues Vicky Vale in that scene, that whole scene is just. That was everything. That's what made me if you want to say it, comic book movie fan at that point when I was only 6 years old.
And one of the innovations is that you were able to see it on VHS at all. Because this was the first film that they really went wide with at an affordable price, not very long after the movie came out. And so it was the case in the early 80s where very often, VHS would either not be available for a movie, or it would only be available at a price that would be something that Blockbuster would pay to rent at. So it would be 300 hours for a copy or something like that. And what they did with Batman is it came out, I think November 15th of '89. So about 4 or 5 months later. So that was unheard of.
That's quick.
But I bought it at a Walgreens on Germantown Road in Memphis. I mean, and this is not like I was having to go to a specialty, Suncoast Movies or something like that, or anything that would have been around even a little bit longer to get this movie. And that changes everything, and is one of the reasons that I think the fandom was able to sort of stay energized in between the 2 movies, because there's 3 years there between Batman and Batman Returns. And if you go back to say Star Wars, well, there was nothing in between Star Wars and Empire. Star Wars doesn't show up on cable till it debuts on HBO on February 1st, 1983. That's 6 years after it came out.
That's crazy. That's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, and not as long as like Gone with the Wind, which was like 40 years, but
Ooh. Man, and that's a long movie too. Gone with the Wind's like 4 hours long. I have a hard time watching that. I'm sorry to say. I finally watched it because I want to watch as many classic films and respect, classic eras of Hollywood as much as I can.
Yep.
But I watched it once, and after the movie was because I saw it at my local Cineplex, just to be perfectly clear. It was in Towson, Maryland at the Cinemark. Yep. And I thought, no, not watching this again. I'm done. One is enough. One is enough. It's one of those movies where you say one and done, ladies and gentlemen. One and done. That's it. No more Gone with the Wind.
It was just a big, expensive production, and in an era where the previous movies have been black and white. So it was, and when they did air it on TV, it was a big deal because it hadn't ever been on TV, and they had to break it up into 2 nights because it was so long.
4-hour movie, man. It's insanity times 1,000. But you're right. It was a big production. A lot of stuff went into it. So no disrespect to the filmmakers at all. It's just, for me, it's not really my cup of tea. But respect to the actors and actresses. As far as Batman goes, I mean, yeah, I've watched it so many times. I broke the VHS tape because I watched it so many times. So I had to upgrade to something known as DVD. And then a few years later, they did a 25th anniversary deluxe edition on Blu-ray. I don't know if you remember this or not, but that came out and I thought, yep, I need it. Why? Because it's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Oh, there you go.
So it's just, you know what I mean? Like, enough said.
I have never seen any movie as many times in the theater as this one, and that includes Star Wars, which I've worked on for 20 years.
Oh my gosh, Batman beats out Star Wars for you.
Yep.
Wow.
But again, why is that? It was because when it came out, I had a car.
Did you ever look at your girlfriend and say, "Get in the car," and she asks which one, and then you queue up your Danny Elfman score?
Oh gosh! Well, that's the thing is, again, what was brilliant about this picture is the marketing was, unprecedented in several ways. I mean, that symbol, the bat symbol there, that is the most famous and I would say most successful advertising image in movie history. when they did the trailers for it, you would just see the shield at the end. They wouldn't even they wouldn't even have the name of the movie. They would just have that symbol. Also in the commercials, likewise, they would not say what the movie was. You just see the symbol. And of course, before long, everybody was wearing that image. I mean, they were buying things. People were going to Taco Bell and getting the Batman cups. Everybody was doing that whole thing. So you have that way to participate in it and enjoy it. But then there's also, as you mentioned, the music. There's two different soundtracks because there's Danny Elfman's instrumental soundtrack, orchestral soundtrack, which comes out later in the summer. And then what came out more or less soon as soon as the movie came out was Prince's album, which is its own story, which is interesting. It's actually, if you read all the liner notes and everything that he's got he's got different characters that he's attributing each song to, and there's a little narrative. It's almost a rock opera that's going on, which is just on this album. So when I worked for Comics Buyer's Guide later on, that was one of the things that I did. Among many articles about this picture, I did a piece for the 10th anniversary, just studying the album and the story that he was telling there. So, but that's part of the saturation of this film in 1989. Making sure that everybody had something to see or something to buy.
Very true. Very true. I mean, have we shipped 1 million of these things? Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, there you go.
Ship them all because
Ship
we're
them
going
all.
to send them out
Save out
a
a
whole
whole door. Yeah.
new door.
Yeah.
And what's yeah.
Yeah. What does that even mean? Yeah.
I know. I'm not really sure what it means either, but I just love the movie. I just kind of suspend my disbelief. You know what I mean?
Well, one of the fun things about this book is I actually was able to go in and take a look at the original script and see what some of the lines were that were cut that, when you hear the lines as performed in the movie, don't entirely make sense. And so, like there's a sequence where there's a sequence where the Joker is in the helicopter over the burning Axis Chemical building, and he says, Junior Birdman in the air, missed me, ha 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 ha, watch me. And the Junior Birdman thing I learned later on related to there was actually a club of future pilots back in the 40s, and that was their slogan. They actually had a song, Junior Birdman in the air. And again, it's kind of funny because Michael Keaton would go on to be in a movie called Birdman. But that I always thought that something was missing there, where he says, "Ha ha ha, watch me." What after in between miss me and that? If you go into the script, he says, "I'm heading to the parade, and I'm going to kill 1,000 people an hour unless you show, or until you show." That line is in there. That line is in the novelization. It's in the script. And so I happen to have an incident in the book where Batman is having to recount that moment. And he describes having, or actually a character describes that one of the Joker's, accomplices, later on revealed that was what he, had said to him. Was so we've kind of put the line back in the movie sort of sideways here at the end. I
was not aware of this.
Well, it's just a funny little moment, but otherwise, with this book we get to actually see extended sequences. Bruce Wayne talking with Alfred about what he's doing and just about the daily issues of being Batman. We get to see what it's like for Alexander Knox, the reporter, to go from having, covered Batman as a urban myth. Now he's got to cover him as almost like a beat, like a news story, like a regular, interacting with him if he possibly can. And then we also have Commissioner Gordon, and Gordon, is different from a lot of the other Commissioner Gordons you see in other movies, in that he's much older. He's close to retirement, you'd imagine. And so he has a much more, almost paternal relationship talking with Batman, in terms of, he's seen it all here in this city, and Batman shows up right as he's about to retire, and he's able to give him some advice. But also, he's got to deal with, well, how do I cope with, this person that we used to chase now being involved with some of the police work? How does that function? Harvey Dent, likewise. How do you handle the evidence that Bruce Wayne, or not Bruce Wayne, but the Batman brings in? And then Bruce as well. We get to see Bruce Wayne, because it's a novel, and because it's not just one 120-minute story. It's much more spread out. We're able to have a lot of sequences where Bruce Wayne is acting on his own, and using his resources and his influence on his own, unrelated to Batman, doing things that Batman can't do. And this is a possibility because one of the things that is distinct about Bruce Wayne in these pictures is that Michael Keaton played him, as distracted, but he's not the playboy of the Nolan movies. He's not pretending to be anything else than he is. We get the sense from these two pictures that Bruce Wayne is actually a responsible and important member of Gotham's civic life. He's expected to be there at Harvey Dent's speech. He's not. He's expected to support the bicentennial, raising money for it, and he does. He teams up with the mayor to try to get Max Schreck to not build the power plant in the second movie. So this is all kind of stuff that is suggested by moments in the films, and then my job is to take those things that are suggested and then spin them out into plots.
Fair enough. I guess it's also fair to say that with John Jackson Miller, we get agreeing again and again. Oh. Once again, this is and I quote. Oh my goodness, we're going to be quoting this movie all night long on and I quote with John Jackson Miller, I might add. And don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for him, by all means. I mean, for instance, how's the soup? And let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. And if you're watching this, I'm sorry. If you're watching this live on the replay, we thank you so much for being with us. I love this movie so much. And I'm sure the person who may be watching or listening to this.
I actually had to poll readers a few weeks ago for their favorite movie quotes.
Oh, yes.
Because I sign my novels either with May the Force Be With You or Live Long and Prosper. Mm-hmm. And what I ended up doing was I ended up with two lists, both the most popular lines from the movie and then lines that I just think would be fun to sign. Like I'd love to sign a book that says, I don't think I've ever been in this room before.
I'm loving it. And fun fact, for those of you who are watching or listening to this episode, we do have friends of ours, Van Dyke Quote Channel, who are going to be at New York Comic Con here in the next few weeks. And my friend Jeff, who's a very good friend of mine, he's going to be up there. He's going to visit you, John Jackson Miller, at your booth. He's going to purchase a copy of the book on my behalf. You can sign it however you want. I'm excited. I can't wait to get my copy. He's going to go on my behalf, get it for me, because he's going to be actually doing some stuff there as well. So
awesome.
Jeff, he's excited to see you. He's excited to purchase the copy for me and bring it back to me because I cannot wait to read this gosh darn thing. I'm so jazzed. Look, I mean, I've been excited for everybody who's come on the show and everyone who has an upcoming piece of work, whether it's an art or a book, whatever it is. I've always been excited for everybody, but this one right here, I mean, as someone who grew up watching this constantly, I've probably seen this movie 600, 700, 800 times. And I have no regrets by saying that, by the way. And with this being a continuation of what would happen, what could have happened, with a bit of the aftermath of the events of 1989's Batman specifically, before you go into 1992's Batman Returns, with all due respect, I mean, no one's really ever explored this bit of the timeline before. So that's what makes me so excited and jazzed, if you will, to see where this goes. And also, when you mention the words, get in the car, Danny Elfman, like when that Batmobile shows up, like everybody wanted that car back then. We still want it today. Okay. 35 years later, I want that car sitting in my driveway. I want it now. I love that car. I think it's the best Batmobile that's ever been presented on any type of screen, whether it be animation or live action. Do you agree?
The production hit on all cylinders, no pun intended. I mean, the production design, Anton Furst's version of Gotham City, just so much of it went right. And a lot of it has to do with, obviously the creative people involved, but as well, Michael Uslan is the executive producer of the movies, along with Benjamin Melniker. And Michael is a comics fan, and he got the rights to the Batman movies, I think in the early 80s, and worked for years trying to get the picture made. And it was his goal to try and get something that people would be proud of, and that comics fans would look at it and say, okay, this actually reflects what we see in this character in the comics. And so I think at every step, they made the right decision. And as I've said, in my review and other places since, the movie really redeemed comics in the popular culture, because the most recent comic book movie we had before this was Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, and this is definitely a change.
Yeah, where's the woman? Give it up, you'll never find her. Sorry. Grew up watching that on VHS as for a number of times as a kid. I don't like it nearly as much as I love Batman.
I don't think you can watch them back to back without getting whiplash.
A little bit of whiplash, two different tones, two different kinds of things going on, and two different studios too, because Canon Films had the to Superman 4 at the time, which was a huge mess financially for them. But that's
they had like $12.
Yeah, 12. Was it $12 or $13, something like that?
I think either Canon or Coralco had the rights to do a Spider-Man movie in like 1980, and people were just praying that it wouldn't come out because, because we knew it would cost so much to do a credible version of Spider-Man, and thank goodness they waited until the technology was such. And the studio in question was such that they could actually afford the technology.
Well, that's very true. There's no argument with that. Now, have there been any special memories for you from being at conventions or other events, whether you're there signing your books or there as an attendee, that stand out?
I really, was floored the first time I went to Star Wars Celebration in 2007, and there were several fans dressed as my comics characters from Knights of the Old Republic, the comic series, and including one who had flown in all the way from Puerto Rico, having to actually disassemble the weapon that her character has, and get that thing through security, and just people being willing to walk around as these characters, in some pretty elaborate body paint that was required. I am just floored by that. I was never a costumer. I was never any good at that. But people having that kind of commitment to it. And then, I see now people are bringing to me, they're doing their own, special fancy editions of my novels, because you can, there's after party or aftermarket things that people are able to do, spray painting the edges of books or things like that, to do something really cool with them. And so that's always neat. I get to see every so often, I get to see somebody will bring up just a personal version of a book, not something for mass production, but a novel that never got a hardcover, for example. Somebody will say, well, here's mine. And it's like, okay, well, it's interesting to see. So again, the time that people put into these things is it is gratifying to see.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, favorite line in Batman '89. What's your favorite one?
Oh, favorite line in Batman '89. Oh gosh, well, there's so many. I mean, I have to look at my.
You can look at your index card over there.
Yeah, I have the author's choice ones because they're the less popular ones.
Right.
But you know, you know, yeah, I love some of the lines that I've got here. Will look really good in a book. Like I said, I don't know if it's art, but I like it.
Yes.
The pen is truly mightier than the sword. Haven't you ever heard of the healing power of laughter? You know, I want you to do I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me. These are all perfect lines to put in a book. The lines that I said I cannot put in a book are things like you weigh a little more than 108.
Yeah. Oh, really? Let's go. I mean, to say that I know it's in character, right? It's in character. But if I'm looking at the very beautiful and still to this day, Kim Basinger, and I say to her, "You weigh a little more than 108." I mean, I would get slapped in the.
Well, yeah, and I'm not gonna. You know, I'm no Picasso, but do you like it? I mean, these are lines you can safely put in a book.
Yeah.
But you know, let's broaden our minds. You know,
that's a great one.
Yeah. So there's just so many. I mean,
so I guess it's hard to pick.
Obviously, the funniest line in the movie is this town needs an enema.
Yeah.
But it doesn't read right on the page.
Right.
It looks
right. It's a little differently, right?
You've got to have the whole, you know, Jack Nicholson and the whole bit leading up to it, and you know the little party favor that he plays immediately after it.
The party blower. Yeah.
Yeah, to have that work.
Favorite scene from the movie? Do you have a favorite scene from '89's Batman?
Oh, I think with you, you know, the moment where he goes through the you know, the skylight, and that's a practical effect.
Yes.
And you know, that's probably the most rewatched you know, moment that I saw. And again, it was just well timed. You know, it's. You know, he comes in, he saves Vicky without even saying a word. And you know, we have an action moment, and we're immediately out in the street, and the next thing we see is the Batmobile. So it's just set up really well. It gets us into the next, you know, transition really well. You know, they actually transition so fast that they lose one of the lines. You know, where does he get such wonderful toys? Well, the actual line that comes after that is, "Don't just stand there, go ask him." And
yeah.
And again, you know, I think it's in here. It's definitely in the script. I think it probably is in the comic book adaptation too. But again, I think they felt like, you know, if we could shave off 5 seconds in between, you know, him going through the door and us seeing the Batmobile, that works to the movie's benefit, and I think that's probably right.
That's absolutely fair. I've actually used that meme or GIF a number of times over the years, where if I see someone who has a collectible that I really want, where does he get those wonderful toys?
Well, like one of the things that we do in the book is all of my novels. I have you know, the sections, because you divide up the novel into sections. All of my sections usually have titles, and I usually have some kind of running theme. Sometimes it's a you know, sometimes it's a little puzzle or wordplay that's going on between all of the chapters. This was fairly simple. I just decided, like, I'm going to use lines from the movie from a specific character, and so people, when they go through the book, they should be able to easily recognize, yeah, these are lines from Batman '89.
That's even more brilliant. You know what else is brilliant? Stop the Press. Who is that? It's John Jackson Miller on this episode of And I Quote. New York Times bestselling writer. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for him, drop a like us hot in those comments. Do not forget, if you're watching us live or on the replay, thank you so much for being with us. Good Lord, I love this movie, and I love I like this guy. Okay, John Jackson Miller is just give him all his flowers. Give him all his flowers. Honestly, we're flipping loving it here. You know what else is really cool is that this episode of And I Quote, and every episode is indeed presented by our good friends over here at Poddex. Now, Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or simply gamify what is known as their podcast. All you got to do is shuffle up those cards. You ask a question. You can let the content roll. You can get yours today, as a matter of fact, at poddex.com. Use that promo code Ryan10. That's RYAN, Ryan10, for 10% off your order. Say hello to our friends over there at Poddex. Now, Poddex is curious. If you had what is known as a personal mascot, what would it be?
A personal mascot.
Yeah, it could be anything. It could be a creature. It could be something. It could be anybody. Maybe it could be a bat because they're good survivors.
Oh gosh, personal mascot. Well, again, I said I wasn't very good at costuming. When I did the Knights of the Old Republic comic series,
Sure.
Yeah, the fans wanted to dress me up as one of my characters, and I said, "Well, all right, I'm not a costumer, but I tell you what, if you get the character Griff from Knights of the Old Republic, who's this little 3 foot tall swindler guy." I said I would happily dress up as him, but I said, but here's the deal: the costume has got to be life size, and I thought that got me out of it because there's no way in the world they'll ever do that. And then Tim Brown, one of the fans at Mid South Con the next year, brought me a big Muppet life size with the Griff, with the character, and I'm like, okay, true to my word, I'm going to carry this thing around all weekend long. And I see Carlin in the quote, the chat. He remembers it. I ended up having to drive all the way home with that giant puppet, it was made for some interesting moments going through the drive-through because.
Good Lord, man.
Well, yeah, because he was sitting in the child seat, and
no.
And the woman at the chicken place said, "That is the ugliest child I have ever seen."
Woo! Carlin says the photos do exist somewhere on social media. There, Carlin.
That's true. No, we had a lot of fun with that. But yeah, I mean that character was sort of my mascot for a while, and that at that convention he was literally that.
Good Lord. Oh man, that's awesome sauce. Goodness gracious. No. Well, if you could only eat what is known as one food for the rest of your entire life, what exactly would it be?
One food for the rest of my I don't know. Well, chocolate, of course, is the I can survive on that. Sure, why not? Movie popcorn, I got out of the habit because I stopped going to movies, and now that they've made it available for the home, for these grocery stores, I'm like, okay, I really have to not do this. This is this is not the best thing for your dental work after a certain point in life. But yeah, that would probably be on the list somewhere. Chocolate covered popcorn, I don't want anything to do with though. That's just wrong.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right. Would you rather, they say, would you rather be the best player on what is known as a horrible team or the worst player on what is known as a great team?
I've been I was in a job at one point where I actually did go in and say to my boss, I feel like the best player on the Jets, which at the time was the worst team. And it was in an effort to, get them to give more resources and more money, and that ended up happening. But again, no, I've always felt like I would rather go to the biggest possible pond and just see what I can do. So I mean that's why I went to the biggest university in my state. That's why I went to when I started working in comics, I'm working at Marvel, and I swing for the fences with my first major series, and it doesn't really succeed to the degree that it probably needed to. But I'm like, okay, fine. I'm gonna go try Star Wars next. Then Star Wars to Batman and back and forth between the two, and Star Wars to Star Trek rather, and then back and forth between the two, and of course now Batman as well. Fail big, I think is a good way to phrase it. You only have time to do so many books or so many comics or so many projects. You might as well, try something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I could see that. Kind of like a go big or go home kind of thing.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. What's the cheesiest movie moment or line that you can think of?
cheesiest movie moment or line that I could think of. Well, here's the thing: was cheesy for some is not cheesy for others. And this is a good example from Batman. Okay, so that very first night, I've still got the ticket from it. The very first night that I went to, there you go.
There it is. Look, is that all 12 of them?
That's 10. That's 10 of them.
10 of them right there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
One of them was. I don't think I got the ticket stub from that. That was at the Orpheum, which was the big giant downtown theater in Memphis when they had their summer movie festival. No, when I saw the very first opening night thing, the audience was all fans. So I mean, people were dressed up in Joker makeup. People were dressed up. They had a there were a group of fans that had this big black bed sheet with them, and they had cut holes in it so that they could wear it over themselves and drape it over the seats as a big cape. So it was a really electric, into it audience. And the moment when the Batwing passes in front of and stops in front of the moon, the full moon, everybody went nuts. They loved it. And the very next night, when I'm at the big movie theater at a regular hour, not midnight, and the civilians are there who are seeing Batman for the first time. Well, they love the movie too, but when that moment hits, you got a lot of it's so cheesy. And I'm like, it's like, now you think this after all these moments, but it really sort of encapsulated for me that, one person's cheesy line or whatever is somebody else's favorite. So
yeah, I mean, Carlin says it's cheesy and love it, but it goes to 11. So,
there you go. So yeah, that is my thought about cheesy moments in movies as it relates to this one in particular. Obviously I could go all day long with lines that I wish I hadn't heard in other pictures.
Oh, gee. Yeah, that could be a whole other show or a discussion here on Anti-Quote channel. Feel free to let us know in the comments if you want to see that happen. We'll bring John Jackson Miller back on here. We'll have a whole seminar or discussion, however you want to phrase it, and we'll get one or two other people in here too. Maybe Carlin will join us for that.
Well, I'll say I didn't need to see the Batman credit card in the fourth movie.
That fourth movie never happened. Let's just pretend it didn't happen.
Well, there we go.
It's hashtag not my Batman, or not canon, if you want to call it that. Sorry, that's a phrase that goes around the interwebs. What is something that you get wrong almost every single time that you do it?
Something that I get wrong almost every single time that I do it.
Yeah.
Well, outside of spelling certain words, which is again, I've got the computer to help me. Parallel parking.
There you go.
I actually have one of the. It's interesting. The video games that I play these days, I don't do anything that's got any storytelling attached to it. So I don't do role playing games or anything like that. I've never been able to really, even though I played D&D and actually designed some stuff for the Star Wars role playing game, I've never really been able to be patient enough to let somebody else tell the story. I want to do it myself, and so the video games that I play are things like American Truck Simulator and Snow Runner and things where you're driving things, and I'm still trying to learn how to back up a semi truck. I keep hoping that this will teach me how to parallel park better, but I guess all I need to do is get one of the more modern cars that will park itself.
Well, there you go. Unless you don't have to worry about the fear factor driving on ice in that TV series, Ice Road Truckers. So.
Well, I live in Wisconsin, so just going to the mailbox gets me that.
Oh, well, never mind. You plenty of ice, folks. Plenty of ice for everybody. Carlin says one of the cheesiest lines is, "Throw me, don't tell the elf."
Oh, gosh.
Good Lord. I wonder where that came from. Never heard that line before, Carlin. Gonna have to inform me on that one in the DMs, buddy.
It sounds like X-Men.
No, I've seen all the X-Men movies. I don't remember that line being.
No, it's not in the movie. It might have been in the comics.
Oh, in the the run of the comics. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I love X-Men, by the way. I'm a huge X-Men fan.
Oh, Lord of the Rings. Okay, there we go.
Right, Lord of the Rings.
See, now I'm embarrassed.
No. It's okay. Hey, we're learning something new every day on this program. That's one of the best things about being a podcaster and having these incredible people and incredible guests. There's no doubt about it. So, which Star Wars movie have you seen the most amount of times in the theater at one point?
It's actually a tie.
Is it?
Oh yeah, the special editions made it possible for me to actually just get everything up into like 4 of each.
Gee willikers. Favorite line uttered in a Star Wars film?
Favorite line uttered in a Star Wars film. Well, there's again a lot of those.
I don't know where you get your delusions, Laser.
That's a good one. I'll tell you, the first time that I actually had a line of a movie, Star Wars movie, inspire a whole novel, is this year, because the novel that I had that just came out is Star Wars: The Living Force.
Oh yes,
and there's a line in I think the best moment in Attack of the Clones is that sequence there where Obi-Wan encounters the guy in the bar who wants to sell him death sticks, and he says, "You don't want to sell me death sticks. You want to go home and think about your life." And the guy says, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to go home and think about my life." And again, it's just a minor moment told as a joke, but it is a rare occurrence where you get to see what the Jedi were probably doing in peacetime, or what the Jedi were probably doing when they're not doing police work, which is not their job anyway. This is a case of him actually, helping to point another human being or another person in the right direction, and basically, ministering to a degree in terms of, giving good advice to someone in between all the action moments and everything else. And so the idea with The Living Force is that it's set 1 year before The Phantom Menace, and I was offered a chance to do a novel featuring the entire Jedi Council. And I said, what I want to do a book where Qui-Gon Jinn, who has told Obi-Wan to be mindful of the living force, be mindful of those who are around us, not the future, not the big picture, not the prophecies. Pay attention to what's going on around you. I want to do a book where Qui-Gon Jinn walked into the Jedi Council chamber and faced everyone and says, when was the last time you people actually helped anybody? You sit in this room, you argue with one another, you have these discussions, these debates. You don't let most of the characters talk. What could be going on in this galaxy that you don't know about because you're sitting up here in your ivory tower? And he challenges them to get out of the tower, to touch grass, as it were, to see what's happening out there. And Mace Windu says, a challenge accepted, road trip. And they go on what I jokingly refer to as Jedi spring break or Jedi rum springa or whatever you want to call it. They go to a planet that needs their help, and they all have adventures, and there's a bigger arc to what's going on at the same time. But it is in part inspired by that moment in Attack of the Clones, where it's like, okay, what should they be doing if they're not running around, arresting people, running around, stopping Clone Wars or starting Clone Wars or whatever. And so it's a different kind of a Star Wars book, and that came out in hardcover, audiobook, and ebook in April, and we're going to get a trade paperback of that before too long.
That's even sweeter. So clearly you have a great ability to concentrate on the moment. Feel, don't think, use your instincts. Fantastic stuff, and I love Qui-Gon Jinn, so there's nothing wrong with that either. Carlin says it's just a bunch of geeks playing back here, and then he says one of his favorite lines from Star Wars is scruffy-looking nerve herder. Who's scruffy looking? You didn't see us alone in the South Passage. She expressed her true feelings. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I'll tell you what. This has been a phenomenal I will say, episode of what is known as And I Quote, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to best-selling writer John Jackson Miller for being here on this episode, not just talking about some of the things he's done in his past, but what he has in store for us for the future for Batman Resurrection coming up very, very soon. And you got a lot of appearances coming up too. So if someone wants to know more about you or some of your previous pieces of work or some you got coming up very shortly, where can they follow you, good sir, on social media?
Okay, my website is farawaypress.com, where I've got behind-the-scenes notes on most of my my work. I am on the Bird app as JJM Faraway. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads as John Jackson Miller. And yeah, as you say, I've got the book release event October 15th in Appleton, Wisconsin at the Barnes and Noble. Then we've got New York Comic Con. I'm there all 4 days. Also, I'm doing an interview on stage Thursday at 2:00 with Adam Nimoy, which is kind of cool. We'll be talking about his book about him and his father, Leonard Nimoy. And then I also have after New York, I've got several more bookstore stops in Chicago. It's my first Chicago tour of bookstores. And then I'll also be at Twin Cities Con in early November in the Twin Cities.
Fantastic stuff. Well, John Jackson Miller, I want to take this opportunity again to say thank you so much for being here and continuing the iconic legacy that is 1989's Batman, directed by the one and only Tim Burton. So thank you very much, good sir, for being here. I'm going to talk to you here momentarily. My name is Ryan of And I Quote channel. Feel free to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Follow us across all forms of social media, simply at And I Quote channel, and links to where you can follow John Jackson Miller are in fact located in the description below. Buy his books. Check out his new one, Batman Resurrection. It is coming out very, very soon. And check out his upcoming appearances. Boy, New York Comic Con is going to be one heck of a party, brother. Yeah. My friend Jeff's going to be there to get myself a copy of Batman Resurrection because I want to read this thing as soon as I can because we got to stop the press. What is this? It's the next best book in the world. That's what it is. We are this close to hitting 5,000 subscribers. Once we do, we're going through a great big live stream celebration that will include returning favorites. Maybe John Jackson Miller will stop by, share with us some cheesy movie lines, maybe some cheesy movie pickup lines he may have heard in his time. I don't know. Could be a million different things. But help us get there, and we're going to have special giveaways that you, our incredible viewers / subscribers, are going to be eligible to win. We also have merch. We have shirts. We have hoodies. We have hats. We have stickers that you can put on your water bottles, or we have coffee mugs. We have stationery, all that kind of stuff. Links are in our social media bios on our Redbubble store, and everything is on sale right now. You want to know why? Because the seasons are about to change if they haven't done so already. Goodness gracious, look at these temperatures here in the Northeast where I live, for example. But yes, make sure you check out the upcoming book, Batman Resurrection, written by the incredible John Jackson Miller. It's coming. It's going to be crashing through that roof, just like Batman did in that classic film. Gosh, I love that movie. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified of when our videos go up or they go live. And remember, life is better when supporting your favorite creators and celebrating all things comics. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Good morning. Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.